Oh, Felix here again, one of Herod's wonderful mercenaries, but actually a Roman auxiliary, working, I suppose, what we call these days, undercover, under command of the emperor, but ostensibly, as far as the locals know, and as far as he knows himself, under Herod's orders. Remember I told you last time about what happened in the hill country? Our Germanian friends had got very, very scared. The stories they came back with, the spirits flying around and men being struck dumb, and how we went up there because they were too scared to go back, to find out that yes, part of that story was actually true. We saw the man who'd been struck dumb. We saw the baby being born, the baby who was going to be the forerunner. And our interpreter at the time, a man called Matthias, being quite surprised that we knew about the forerunner. Of course, we knew about that from the stories we'd heard a few times ago, a few months, in fact, possibly even a few years. And time flies in this place. From Eli, the camel and donkey drover, who told us quite a few stories about the history of his country on our trip down to Jericho one time. And if you remember rightly, I said at the end of that story that things started to get weird. But before they started to get weird, they got very, very busy indeed, for us at any rate. In fact, for most people, big disruption, because the emperor, in his great wisdom, had decided that he wanted to tax people. And to tax people, he needed a census, didn't he? And so he decided that the whole of the empire, was going to have to go, people, men, actually, with their families, go to the place where they were actually born, or more likely, where their ancestors had come from, their ancestral area. Of course, it didn't affect us because we were on duty out here in Israel, but everybody else would have to go on the move. And we were told that we were going to have to go and patrol around a place called Bethlehem. Now, we knew Bethlehem, and we wondered why we were going to have to go around Bethlehem. It seemed to be very certain from Herod, and in fact Quirinius, the governor of Syria, had told our officers, and we'd overheard this, to make sure that we did go around Bethlehem. Why Bethlehem, we thought? In fact, I asked Matthias, our interpreter, exactly why we should be round Bethlehem. Well, he said, City of David, isn't it? I mean, I'm part of that family. David was one of my ancestors. Oh, who's this David? We said. Who's this David? And you know all these stories about our prophets and our patriarchs, and you've not heard of David. Well, if we had, we'd forgotten, probably because it was boring, but or maybe we hadn't heard. And when Matthias told us about David, how he'd been a shepherd boy and how he'd risen to become a king because of great feats of warfare against invaders from the sea, we sort of understood why Eli had never told us that. It might have been a bit close to the mark. Invaders from the sea. Well, I suppose we were in a way. Oh, so why, we wondered, why going there? And then we thought, yes, we could actually see where a problem could happen. And we could see why Herod and Quirinius wanted us to be there, just in case it did, because, let's face it, if all the descendants of David who were alive at the time, all the men of whatever age, with their families, were going to descend in one place at one time, Bethlehem, at census time, yes, we could see there could be a problem there. You know, descendants of great king who drove invaders back. Yes, we could see the problem. So, there we were, patrolling around Bethlehem. To begin with, there weren't huge crowds, just a few stragglers, maybe 10, 20 a day, but it got more and more and more as the time for the census got closer and closer. We had to be very vigilant, checking to see if there were any weapons being carried occasionally, spot checks as our officers called them. Always keeping our eyes open, not just on the road, but on what was going on off the road. Making a check too, we sent patrols out into the hills on the way down, making a check too that certain maybe undesirable elements weren't trying to come in secret. Actually, they weren't. I think people were so fed up with having to leave their homes, have their lives disrupted, and actually go and do something that they didn't want to do because the orders came from above. It wasn't a happy group of people coming day by day down that road. Most of them were very sullen. And so it was quite surprising one day when we were marching along slowly, I say marching, slowly, checking everybody, when Matthias, who was walking beside us, suddenly looked and his head twitched as if he recognised somebody. We immediately looked at him and looked into the crowd that was going past, and we saw who? Because it was a young man with a young woman heavily pregnant on a donkey, and he was waving to Matthias. Matthias sort of looked at us and looked at him and sort of waved back, as if he didn't really want to wave back, but did, but was worried what that would mean. The young man with the woman on the donkey carried on. Now then, Matthias, I said to him, what's all that about? Nothing, he said, nothing. Well, there's obviously something going on. Otherwise, why didn't you just wave back? Weren't you sure who it was? No, said Matthias. No. I knew who it was. Well, why didn't you wave back? Why didn't you want to draw attention to the fact that you knew it? One of my companions said. Matthias looked as if he'd been kicked by a mule, or a bolt of thunder had hit him, both alike. There's nothing wrong. He's part of my family. I just didn't, well, I didn't want to make trouble for him because I didn't want to draw attention to him. There's a story there, isn't there? I said to him. There's more than you're saying. I can't say anything, said Matthias. I can't say anything. We walked on down the road, slowly, checking everybody. At one point, Matthias was standing on his own. He'd just been talking to some of the officers and pointing things out, pointing to this person, pointing to that person, sort of waving his hands around as if he was describing something, and didn't seem to be any trouble. And as he walked away, I went over to him. Tell me the story, I said. I can't, he said. Not here, not now. Tonight then, I said. Tonight when we're in camp. Tell me the story. I want to know. So that night, when we're in camp, and luckily we weren't on patrol during the night, Matthias came and sat with us as he normally did, and we talked. Several of us. And gradually, one by one, many of them went off to sleep, ready for the morning, and just myself and two companions left, and Matthias. Right, Matthias, I said, you know us very well. We've known you for a while now. Tell us what it's all about. Matthias looked round, and he seemed to relax because, yes, he did know myself and the two companions. He knew us quite well. We'd been working together for quite long, and he knew he could trust us. And that was a big thing. And he actually said it, and that was the first time he'd ever said it. Now I know I can trust you, he said. I know because you had that experience up in the hill country. Oh, the baby, I said. or the baby. Huh, and the angels, said one of the friends. Angel, said the other one. Yeah, angel, I said. Yeah, all right. So it's about angels, is it? Well, it's family. Family. It's a sort of a family scandal, said Matthias. We looked at each other. Family scandal? Oh. Yes, said Matthias. I think you might have guessed it. That's not his baby, is it? I said. Well, oh, come on, Matthias. Tell us the whole story. So Matthias did. Apparently, he got it from Joseph. Yeah, Joseph. That was the name of his cousin. Well, as he said, sort of cousin. Well, I know what it's like, sort of cousins. We have sort of cousins at home. We're all related one way or the other, going way back. Well, said Matthias, you know I'm from Galilee. Yeah, we knew he was from Galilee. Yeah, the hills, the lake. A bit like us, really. We have mountains and lakes, yeah, hills and lakes, and mountains, yeah, mountains and lakes, and not as just you. Well, at any rate, back to the story. Well, I should be on my way to Bethlehem too, he said. Well, yeah, you are. He said, you're coming with us. No, he said, census. See, David's my ancestor too. And he's Joseph's ancestor hundreds and hundreds of years ago, but that's where we've got to go to Bethlehem, city of Bethlehem. City? Yes. No, I've seen cities. I wouldn't call Bethlehem a city. This David, important was he? Great king, said Matthias. Oh, he said. Great king, and yeah, as you talked about before, great king drove people, invaders, back again, and we knew why Eli hadn't told us the story. A bit close to the mark, really. Driving invaders back, and now we realise exactly why Quirinius and Herod wanted us there. Because if there's ever anything that was going to cause problems, possibly, as we said, descendants of a great king who drove invaders back, going to Bethlehem, all together at the same time. Well, said Matthias, to cut a long story short, and do you know, we have found, a bit like with Eli, they're great for saying cut a long story short, which means they're not going to tell us the whole thing. Cut a long story short, he said. Mary, and I'll call her Mary, that's the closest you're going to get without getting all confused. And you knew what we thought about Jewish names and how we did get confused. Mary, apparently betrothed to me, sort of cousin Joseph, was at home and an angel appeared. Oh, well, we were very interested then. We knew all about angels. We'd been there when the result of an angel, at any rate, said Matthias, shush. Just let me get on with the story. This angel appeared and said, hello, you've been chosen. Chosen for what? Apparently Mary had said. Chosen to bear God's son. God's son. And you're going to call him Jesus. Well, Mary, apparently, according to what Joseph said, was quite shocked, really, because that could have caused problems. But she was very faithful, and so, said Matthias, so she said, okay, I will. But how's it going to happen? Because, Well, apparently the angel said, God's Holy Spirit's going to put that child inside you. And to cut a long story short, after she said yes, that's exactly what happened, said Matthias. we could already see where the problem was going to come now. But Matthias was being very quiet, so I said, come on then. I think we can see the problem. What happened next? Because, I mean, they're here. We've seen them. We've seen them today. Well, he said, Joseph, now, he's a nice bloke. He's a carpenter. He's very steady. He's a good bloke. He's a good bloke. I get on with him really well. He didn't want what could happen to Mary to happen. What was that, we said? Well, traditionally, she should have been taken out into the village square and stoned. Stoned? Well, for having somebody else's baby, I suppose, said one of my companions. Exactly, said Matthias. But Joseph being, as I said, he's a good bloke. He decided no, what he'd do is just break off the betrothal. But they're here, I said. Yes, Matthias. And that's where, and I know what you're going to say, he said, because you said John was weird. What happened up in the hill country was weird. Go on then. By now we're getting really interested. Angel came to Joseph, didn't he? Said Matthias. And we all looked at each other. Whoa, whoa, whoa. What did the angel say? Angel, apparently, and I got this from Joseph, first hand, said Matthias, told Joseph exactly what he told Mary. And Joseph, being a very faithful person, said, yeah, okay, I'll do it. God's son, I will bring up this child as my own. I will obey God and I'll look after Mary. So here they are. Here they are, going to Bethlehem. Well, what's the problem? He said. Well, the family didn't like it. Well, some of the family didn't like it, said Matthias. And, well, they got betrothed again. And when was the marriage then? I said, hasn't happened. Why not? We all said. If he said, no. Why do you think? Said Matthias. We looked at each other. Family problems, isn't it? Oh, no, said Matthias. What are we doing? What are we doing now? Well, guarding the road to Bethlehem. Matthias nodded. Oh, he said, the marriage should have happened now. Marriage should have happened just after the order came through that everybody had to go on the move, just after the whole disruption happened. Couldn't have the wedding. So now they're on the way to Bethlehem. But she's just about to have the child, we said. She's big. Oh, yeah. Do you think she'll get to Bethlehem? Well, getting to Bethlehem will be no problem, said Matthias. They're so close. The problem's going to be getting there. When they get there. Why is it going to be a problem when they get there? The family's down there, isn't it? You've got relatives. That's the problem, said Matthias. They think we're from the sticks any rate, coming down from Galilee. They're sort of a cut above us any rate, they think. But more than that, they are far, far, far more traditional. They would just not accept the fact that Mary is carrying somebody else's baby and that Joseph's standing by it. It just won't be accepted. Oh, he said. Oh, I see, I said. So they're going to have to find somewhere to stay when they get there. I mean, she needs somewhere. Yeah, said Matthias. And then I thought, all the crowds. We knew from patrolling for weeks and weeks that Bethlehem was already absolutely heaving with people. There was absolutely no chance of getting somewhere without booking it, without being part of a family, without friends taking them in. They were going to Bethlehem, and she was going to have that baby on the street. No, no, not a nice story. Not a nice story at all. And we did wonder at the time, what on earth's going to happen? What on earth's going to happen? We had no idea. And we had no idea, well, I had no idea, that I was going to meet a very old friend in very, very strange, unusual, and again, quite weird circumstances.